Hi, everyone. Welcome to our University of Pennsylvania MCIT Online Admissions webinar. My name is Olivia Roth, and I'm the Senior Associate Director for Penn Engineering Online Learning. And I'm really happy to welcome you to join us today. Just a few introductory remarks, and then we'll get started on our webinar. So MCIT Online is our flagship program, our flagship online degree program. And as well, we also recently launched a specialization on Coursera called Introduction to Python and Java Programming. So the instructor of that course, Professor Brandon Krakowsky, he is also the instructor of the first course in our degree program. So we are delighted to have him as a guest today on our webinar. We will begin after this with an overview of the MCIT Online program to try to cover some of the basic introductory questions that you might have. And then we'll move on to more details from Professor Krakowsky and his experience. He's also an MCIT alum from on campus. So he has a really rich perspective to offer. And then we'll have some time for questions at the end. Speaking of questions, we would love for you to submit all of your questions via the Q&A tool. So on Zoom, if you go over to the panel of options, you'll see a Q&A option. And that's where we'd love for you to submit your questions. I see people are joining us from all over the world, which is so delightful to see. So like I said, at the end, we will go ahead and go through your questions. If we don't have time to get all of them, we'll stay online and hang around a little after. We are recording this, and we will also post a recording of this video later on. So you can find it, you'll be able to find it on our YouTube channel and on social media after this, and you can share it with your friends as well. If you're joining us by phone today, unfortunately, we don't have a mechanism for you to submit questions. But again, a recording of this will be available, and we have an extremely responsive team. You can always reach out to us anytime at onlinelearning@cs.upenn.edu. We'll be sure to get back to you. So with that, thank you again for joining us, and I'd like to pass it over to my colleague, Rafia.
Okay, thank you, Olivia. Hello, everyone. My name is Rafia Foster, and I'm the admissions coordinator for MCIT Online. I might have spoken with some of you before during virtual office hours, but welcome to our webinar today. And I want to start by giving you some basic information about MCIT Online. The first thing is it's been on campus, an on-campus program for approximately 19 years at this time. Let me go back a little bit. Backwards. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. And this program is designed specifically for those without a computer science background or a computer science degree. So we have students coming from a wide variety of backgrounds, people that were social science majors, people that were engineering majors, people from various programs. Brandon, who's going to be speaking, comes from a music background as well. But it's a way to get a foundational computer science skills for people without a traditional CS background. The knowledge that you gain is the same as a computer science degree. Oftentimes people ask what the difference is between MCIT and Masters of Science in Computer Science, but it's the same information and the same type of degree in a way, but MCIT Online is a unique credential by the University of Pennsylvania. Our students graduate with the same diploma, the same degree as our on-campus student. Oftentimes people ask, is it going to say that it was online or if it was part-time, etc.? You have the same campus diploma, same transcripts. There's no mention that the program was completed online. And our curriculum, we have a curriculum which includes 10 different courses in order to graduate from the program. There are 6 core courses which provide you the foundational basics for the computer science degree. After that, you're able to take 4 different elective courses to supplement that information. So we have courses in machine learning, data science, computing systems, blockchain systems, and more. Each semester, we add more electives as the program continues to grow. So MCIT Online has been open for 2 years. This is our second year. And so we're building electives as the program continues to grow. A list of electives and courses is actually available online on our website, so you could visit that later on. For the format of the courses, we have weekly or bi-weekly lectures online that you could log in at any time at your convenience to watch. One of the things that we pride ourselves on is that it's flexible for people from a wide variety of backgrounds, in addition to being able to structure it around your time. So there's no required sessions where you have to be face-to-face with a professor through Zoom, et cetera. You can watch the lectures at your leisure. You can also set up time to meet with TAs or professors during time slots that are built in for people around different time zones as well. We have an amazing online community. One of the things that's very special about MCIT Online is that we're able to reach a wide variety of students from all around the world. So right now we have students from over 32 countries represented. We have students from, recent college graduates, people up to 6-year-old, mid-career professionals, people just starting their careers, people that are very well established. So it's an amazing community that works really well together, and it's a great learning environment to learn from people with so many different backgrounds. For career services, we have someone that specializes in professional networking and making sure that our students are able to make connections with each other as well as potential employers. So there are different networking opportunities. The picture that you see here is an event that we had out in California last year to work with students to give their perspective on the program to other students and kind of network among themselves. So we're hoping that when the pandemic is over and we're all opened up, we'll be able to have more in-person events kind of around the country for MCIT Online students. Have actually, one of the things that I think is very special is that we have the flexibility to have things like on-campus or online career fairs. So people often ask, well, how am I going to connect with people, employers? Our office works hard to make sure that you're able to make the same type of connections with people that you might want to network with later on. Students are eligible for financial aid if they are in a full-time program or at least 2 courses a semester. So we're hoping that that'll make it affordable for students to be able to join us in the program. Leading up to that, this is the program pacing. We pride ourselves on being very flexible and convenient for people that are working, navigating, work, home life, etc. So here is a sample plan of someone that would graduate within 5 semesters. You have up to 7 years to complete the program. You could either take 1 class a semester, take 2 classes, take 1 class, take a semester off, etc. You could kind of match the program to your needs and what's happening in your life on a regular basis. And so it definitely does allow a sense of flexibility for people that want to be able to manage their personal life and their work life and an academic program at the same time. Application details. So our early application deadline for fall 2021 is coming up. It's March 1st. And these are some of the things that you're going to need with your application. You're going to need to submit your resume, a personal statement, your transcripts from all colleges and universities that you attended, whether it's undergraduate programs or graduate programs, an application fee, 2 letters of recommendation. So you have 2 letters of recommendation. They can be from academic references. They can be from people that you work with, people that have supervised you in the past. There's an optional 3rd recommendation that you also have the option to add to supplement your application. We do accept the GRE and the GMAT. That is optional, but if you'd like to include that as a way to supplement your quantitative skills, you're able to do that as well. And if you're a student that went to a school where English was not the language of instruction, we ask that you take the TOEFL. There are TOEFL waivers available for students, and you would get more information about that after you submit your application. We use the self-managed application process, so you're able to check the process of your application after you submit it. So you'll be able to see if your recommendations have been received, if there's additional information that we might need for your application to be complete. If your application isn't complete by the March 1st deadline, it will then be reviewed on the May 1st deadline, which is our regular application deadline. Often people ask if we need to receive official transcripts, or if they need to use Certifile or WES, that is not the case. We will use the transcripts that you upload, so PDFs or screenshots of your academic records. We ask that you include everything, so that even includes things like transfer credits from institutions that you might have attended before. So we'll need all of that information to evaluate your application fully during the admissions process. And once again, we have two different cycles: early, which is March 1st, and then regular, which is May 1st. And so you'll see here the deadlines when you'll find out. We don't operate on a rolling admission deadline. So when you apply, you'll find out on a specific date, you'll receive your decision. So for early application, you'll find out April 15th. And for regular decision, you'll find out on June 15th. Tuition and fees. We pride ourselves on being an affordable option for students who are interested in pursuing this degree program. We operate so that you pay per course unit. So with the 10 courses that are offered, you pay for each class that you take, as opposed to per semester. So you have a listing right here of what the anticipated fees would be, depending upon how many courses you decided to take each semester. In addition to the tuition, there's fees associated with that, and they're combined in that lower table for you to have a better idea of what your cost might be for each semester based on the number of courses that you take. This, of course, is subject to change, but once again, we aim to make this program affordable and accessible to a wide variety of students. And as I mentioned before, federal financial aid is available for certain eligible students. At this time, we don't offer scholarships, but the affordability is something that the program worked very hard to develop to make sure that a wide variety of students are able to join us. And now I'd like to introduce Brandon Krakowsky, who is the highlight of our presentation today. He is a lecturer here at MCIT Online in one of our core courses, and he also is the instructor for the Java Python Specialization that just launched on January 25th. For those of you who are just coming to hear about it, I hear wonderful, wonderful reviews about the course so far. But here's Brandon, and we'd like to hear more from you, Brandon. Thank you.
Thanks, Rafia. Wow, I'm the highlight of the webinar. Thanks for that introduction. So I'm Brandon Krakowsky. I'm a lecturer in the MCIT Online program. Specifically, I teach the Introduction to Software Development course. Just a little bit of background about me. I did start out as a musician many, many years ago. I'm still a musician, but that's how I started. That was my sort of goal when I was younger. If I was looking towards a career, it would have been music. And then I worked in radio broadcasting and audio production. Specifically, I started programming when Adobe Flash was extremely popular over 10 years ago. I used this to develop a live web conferencing platform for Big Pharma. I did go back to school, got my master's in computers and information technology from Penn around 2009. I worked as a programmer at Penn School of Design. And then I worked as an application developer for Wharton Computing. I worked with faculty pretty closely to build technology and some different platforms for different student programs, co-curricular programs for Wharton students. Let's see, go to the next slide. Thanks. And then somewhere along the way, I did start my own company, Bleak LLC. The reason I did this was because I wanted more experience doing different types of projects. And so I was doing a lot of freelance work, but then I initially kind of put an official label on it and opened an LLC. It was just myself. I was doing programming, different types of application development for a variety of different companies and clients. I transitioned into data and analytics, became the research and education director at Wharton Customer Analytics, where I work now, in addition to being a lecturer. And there I'm responsible for managing large-scale research projects with students, faculty, and academic researchers from around the world. And then around 2018, I became a lecturer at Penn Engineering. Like I said, I'm a musician. I play bass. I play a variety of instruments, but this is sort of my main axe, if you will. That's me playing at a park. I think that was West Philly, extremely hot summer day. I don't remember the exact summer or date, but there it is. That's me playing, doing one of the things I love a lot. And so I worked, so let me talk a little bit about what the MCIT program did for me specifically. So I was working in industry for about 10 years before I enrolled in the program and went, quote unquote, back to school. I was basically self-taught. So again, I was programming using Adobe Flash. It has its own scripting language. I was definitely very interested and was kind of just teaching myself any way possible. There were less resources then, but essentially I, learned what I needed to know to get the job done. But I had a lot of holes in my knowledge and my skill set. I had, I didn't know about basic programming principles, what object-oriented programming even was, basic concepts. I also didn't really have a great ability to pick up other languages. I just kind of knew what I knew really well. So it did take me, I would say, like twice as long to figure things out and to come up with solutions for things at work. So my job was good. I was good at it. Again, I was working on a live web conferencing platform. It was great, but I did feel stuck in that job. So what I did was I was looking for different programs. I stumbled across the MCIT program at Penn and got in and started the program. And essentially what it did for me was at a high level, it filled in a lot of my gaps, a lot of my knowledge gaps. So both on the academic side and in practice. So it helped me better understand what I was already doing, correctly or incorrectly, why things I was doing were working and why things weren't working as the way I was expecting them to work, or why they weren't efficient, things like that. And so why all of this was happening. It also taught me a ton of basic kind of background computer science knowledge that I just did not have because I was self-taught. I knew certain things, but kind of a baseline that I picked up immediately after enrolling in the program. Also taught me to think even more analytically and logically than I already was. I was doing that anyways because I was kind of in that flow of programming, but it definitely put me more on the path of doing that even more, and then how to solve problems by breaking them down. It did give me an appreciation for the beauty of code. I think that came from just programming more. So I was doing it, but again, it was sort of like just get the job done. I didn't really have any kind of appreciation for how I was putting this all together. And so this really helped me like appreciate, good code versus bad code, even if they're kind of doing the same thing. It's kind of like the elegance of code and how to appreciate that. It also helped me leverage the transition into other programming and technology related roles. That was the big thing. One of the big things that it gave to me, because now I had more experience, different programming languages. I could talk about these things. I could speak the language. I could manage other programmers as I went through the program. And obviously I have a lot of connections through the program. So let me tell you about the first course in the program. So Introduction to Software Development. This is the one that I teach. The first half of the course includes a basic introduction to programming using Python. I say basic. It's an introduction to intermediate level that you'll receive when you go through the first half of the course. It brings you, I would say, almost to an intermediate level in Python. So students are introduced to a lot of the core programming concepts that we use throughout the course through Python and Java. So things like data structures, conditionals, loops, variables, functions. These are concepts that we can carry along the way through Python into Java and then across other programming languages as well, and through other courses in the program. It includes an overview of the different tools that we use for writing and running Python, gets students coding quickly. So part of my goal at the beginning of this course and in general, when I teach courses or workshops, things like that, is I want to get students coding as quickly as possible. So what do you basically need to know just to get started? That's how this course starts. Obviously within the first module, first week, you're digging in, you're writing and running Python code. Lots of hands-on coding exercises, provides an introduction to basic data science techniques using Python. So we build some games, different kinds of programs. We also get into loading data, analyzing that data, answering questions about the data. The second half of the course, we move into Java, object-oriented programming using Java. An overview of Java syntax. The syntax is very different in Java than it is for Python. I try to kind of reach back to Python and compare the two languages as often as possible throughout the course. This is how we did it in Python. This is now how we're going to do it in Java, but it's similar concepts. So learners will learn how to write, obviously, custom Java programs. And we also do a lot of code testing using test-driven development. students are introduced to a lot of object-oriented concepts like polymorphism, inheritance, abstract classes, interfaces. We go through a bunch of different advanced data structures in the course. We also go through an intro to reading and writing to files, how to connect to databases through a Java program, parsing, manipulating text, and then some interactive debugging. So generally speaking, the material in the course is in the following format. So it's produced audio and video content for the sort of higher level concepts. Then there's in-depth coding demonstrations and explanations, substantial programming assignments throughout the course in both Python and Java, every 1 to 2 weeks, give or take. I always tell students, the real learning happens in those assignments. So yeah, you should watch the videos, go through the demonstrations, go through the practice exercises, but really those larger assignments is where the real learning happens. That's how you learn how to program, just by programming. There's a lot of short readings, background material that'll help you kind of move through the material, sort of like high level background information for the assignments, coding tips, regular quizzes throughout the course to assess kind of general comprehension of course concepts, a lot of practice coding exercises. We probably try to give you as many opportunities to code as possible throughout the course. Live and recorded recitations for the review of the material, lots of additional coding exercises during those recitations, live office hours that are recorded as well. Obviously monitored online discussion forum. We have lots of TAs for the course, myself. And then there is a live coding midterm and a live coding final. The midterm is Python, the final is Java. And so when I say we, myself, Penn Engineering, the whole team, we are now offering this online specialization, Introduction to Programming with Python and Java on Coursera. So this will provide you with a sneak peek into the MCIT program, and specifically this first course, this Intro to Software Development. So it actually has some of the same content in the specialization. We took a sample of the lecture videos, the content, the readings, even the exercises, and brought them over to this specialization that anybody can go through. It also includes similar assignments, but they're easier. So the idea is that you can kind of go through this specialization. The assignments are not going to take you as long as they would in the first course in the program, but it does give you kind of a taste of what those assignments, what they look like, what the requirements are, and kind of the process that you go through to work on those. And just like the MCIT online program, the specialization is geared towards students and professionals with minimal exposure to programming and generally computer science. And then, so specifically the specialization, in the same way that the Intro to Software Development goes through Python and Java, the specialization does the same thing. It's the same flow. Teaches Python and Java at an accelerated pace, I would say. There's 4 MOOCs in the specialization: Intro to Python Programming, Data Analysis using Python, Intro to Java and Object-Oriented Programming, and Inheritance and Data Structures in Java. And just like any other specialization and MOOCs on Coursera, you can pick and choose and do individual MOOCs however you want to, or you could do them all and get the certification on Coursera for the specialization. The one kind of important thing here is that if you do that, you can put that on your application for the MCIT admissions committee, make mention of that. And sort of that will make a difference in the decision process. If you go through that, it gives you a sense of what's required. It also gives you essentially a grade that you can work with when you're applying to the program. And so, happy to take any questions about the specialization, about the first course in the program, about my experience in the program, my background. Any questions you have?
Sure, 1 second. So we do have a few questions that I think might be helpful to get your perspective from students. So your perspective as an instructor in the program, what are some qualities that prospective students should bring to the MCIT Online community that you value the most? So as an instructor, what are some values and qualities that you think would be great for students to have if they're joining the program? And what are some things that you look for?
Yeah, so I think definitely students should be, I would say, be prepared for obviously there's going to be some interest in programming, computer science, data science, artificial intelligence. You're going to be applying to this degree for a reason. So I think the interest and hopefully passion will be there, and that will develop over time anyways in the program. But definitely be prepared for a good amount of rigorous coursework. So I think, students that are familiar with rigorous coursework, or just in general have some experience with coding, could be helpful, but not required. And so the idea is that you're going to have to put in a bit of time into the assignments, specifically my course, and then the others as well, and kind of be prepared to put the time in, but to get so much out of it. Like when I first started the program, I just applied to the program and I got in and I was excited. And then, the first couple of weeks, I was like, wow, this is a lot more work than I thought it was. But every day, every week, every assignment I submitted, every sort of lecture I went to, I felt like my knowledge and skill set was just growing like immensely. Like I couldn't believe how quickly I was expanding what I thought I knew. I thought I knew, a bit, but I knew nothing really. I just really kind of blew my mind how much I was learning so quickly. All of us, we kind of went through as a cohort, myself and a few friends. So I felt like, and the community was quite good. So definitely be prepared to put in the work, but then to get just as much out of it. As much as you put in is as much as you'll get out of it. And it moves fairly quickly from my perspective. And to kind of be ready for that, ready for the ride, and to be excited about that, and to go through it with other students in the class and the program.
Thank you. And one of the other things I want to mention is some of the things that we're looking for in successful applicants are people with very strong quantitative skills. That's a question that's often asked by email or in different sessions. What are you looking for in a successful applicant? We're looking for people that have all the qualities that Brandon mentioned, but in addition to people with very, very strong academic skills that are evidenced by their previous academic work and coursework, so we could see that on their transcript. Courses in quantitative areas such as like algebra or linear algebra, discrete mathematics, calculus, physics, organic chemistry, things that can demonstrate your ability to think theoretically and show your quantitative skills. So oftentimes when people ask, should I submit the GRE or the GMAT? And it depends on your specific situation. So if you're coming from a background where you don't have a lot of those courses on your transcript, or you haven't taken the Java Python specialization or computational thinking MOOC, it's helpful to do one of those two tests, or take one of those two tests and submit the scores so we could look at the quantitative scores to see if we feel like you would be a successful applicant or a successful person in the program. Olivia, did you have something to add?
No, I think everybody has summarized it really well. I think, it's a combination of aptitude and then attitude as well.
I like that. Aptitude and attitude. That's great.
Okay, I have another question, which will be easy to answer, which is, hi, could you share the general acceptance rate of the program? And how long does it take for applicants to hear about the admissions decision? We don't share our acceptance rates publicly at this time, but we can say that admission is very competitive. We're fortunate to have applicants from all around the world, all around the country, from a lot of different backgrounds. So we receive many, many, many applications, and we're looking for students that have some of those qualities that we mentioned just previously. So admission is competitive. And so when you're putting together an application, be very thoughtful and intentional about what you write in your personal statement, who you ask for your recommendations. Be very thoughtful about why you're interested in the program, and be able to articulate your reasoning for why MCIT Online will help you meet some of your future goals, or some of the things that you've done in the past that have sparked your interest. So if you're like, oh my gosh, I was in the Java Python specialization, and I realized that I have all these amazing ideas that I can't bring to fruition without this background knowledge, you need to be able to convey all of that in your application.
Yeah, and in terms of the length, I would say there's a pretty wide variety of how long it takes to go through the program. Again, as Rafia said, it's pretty flexible. So, for example, many of our students are mid-career working professionals, and so they may take one course per semester. If you take one course in the spring and fall, it'll take 3.5 years, something like that. you could potentially take 2 courses a semester and you'd get done faster. But a lot of times I think what happens, especially, in the middle of life, is that someone may take 1 course the first semester, and then they might need to take a semester off because they're moving. And then they might feel like, okay, I'm ready to really go all in this semester. I'm going to do 2 this semester. So it can vary in that way. I will say, on average, our students sign up for 1.5 courses per semester. So there are no half courses, but on average, you can get a sense of how quickly people are going through.
Yeah, I can tell you that when I did the program, wasn't the online program, but the sort of on-campus version. At the time, we were doing 3 per semester, and I was working full time, and so I did 3 courses the first semester, 3 the second, and then that was it. I didn't go full time anymore. I went part time after that. So that was considered full time. It was a lot of work. I mean, I didn't have kids at the time, things like that. So I made it happen. But I would say after that, I think I only took 1 course at a time. So that's second, and into the 3rd year, maybe I had to move kind of to more, one-off courses, because it was just things changed in my life. So there was a lot happening, but that was fine with me. Going through those first 6 courses in the first year, though, was super helpful to put me on the right track and stay with a single cohort of students going through that as well. We went through it together.
Actually, Brandon, that's a great segue. Something that you mentioned that people often ask is how should they balance their time between everything else they have going on in their life? Is it manageable to balance their other responsibilities and academic coursework in MCIT?
So I could just tell you how I did it. I mean, it's definitely, it can be challenging. It just depends on what your situation is. Like I said, I didn't have kids at the time when I went through the program. So I was working full time and going to school, but I loved that. That was fine. My work was related to school. School was related to work. I was kind of in this world of programming, technology, computer science. So I loved it. It was great, but I spent all of my time doing it. All day work, going to class whenever I had to, all doing homework all night and all weekend. I spent all of my time doing it, that first year. But then after that, when I went down to part-time, it was a lot more manageable, and it was still fine. But I wasn't in that same kind of I didn't have that same kind of momentum after that. Definitely, I was taking 1 course at a time, getting it done, the electives, basically the 4 electives. But the first 6 courses we went through together, we were all in it together. And I was one of the few people in the program that I knew of that was actually working. There were a lot of other people that weren't working. They couldn't believe I was working. I couldn't believe they were not working. For me, working was the balance to the coursework. So it helped me actually manage my time even more. If I had more time, I don't know if I would have used it more productively. I think I had to manage my time so carefully. So leave work, go to class, come home, start the work, the homework, the assignments right away, whatever they were. It's usually the programming assignments that took the most time, and just really budgeting my time. So for me, the working was a great balance to the coursework, and I was using what I was learning in my courses and my work anyways. So that's a huge plus. If you're able to bring to your work, your career, what you're learning in these courses, you feel it even more. You feel that kind of wow, I'm learning this and it's actually working. I'm actually making this work in my work. You can, advance or pivot in your career, whatever it is that you want to do. But yeah, making that connection was important for me. I was kind of in that world.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would just add that I think the program is very doable in combination with having a life and having a job. In fact, in our online program, the majority of our students are doing that. I think now what the actual workload is and how many courses you take per semester, that varies quite a bit. And I would suggest talking with an advisor about it once you're admitted, because for example, in your first semester, in the program, which is something that's never going to occur again, I would advise someone a little bit differently than, later on the program, let's just say, or, people have different backgrounds. So if somebody is already really strong in math, our second course is very math heavy, that course might be sort of a breeze for them compared to somebody else. Whereas, you can see where I'm going with this. I think most of the time people underestimate how much time it will take And so I'll just spoiler alert tell you, I always suggest that people are more cautious in their first semester and just really, setting themselves up for success to see what it's like, especially because many of our students, it's been a while since they've been in school, or, for most folks, they've never been exposed to engineering before at all. And that's a big transition. So I would say two parts. Yes is very possible. And also, you just want to think carefully about how quickly you can realistically go through it, because you also, you can count the amount of hours in the lectures and you can count the number of hours that it takes to do the assignments, but then there's also time for just percolation, like allowing those concepts to kind of sink in and connect. And I'm not sure when Brandon had time to do that in his first year in the program.
I didn't sleep that much. So.
Yeah, right. See? So don't do what he did. No, just kidding.
Don't be like me.
Yeah.
No, I mean, three courses was a lot. It was definitely a lot. One was very manageable while I was working. Two, I can see being appropriate. 2 courses per semester is definitely appropriate.
Once again, he did not have children at the time.
So. I didn't have children. Once I had children, I took one at a time. Maybe I took 2, and it was perfectly manageable. Still a lot of time, I mean, you would expect it to be a lot of time too. You wouldn't expect it to be easy, I don't think, right? I mean, you would expect it to take a lot of time. If you want to learn how to program, you're not going to just watch, some lecture videos and then, okay, I know how to program. You might not know how to talk about it. You might be familiar with the concepts, but you really need to dig in specifically for program. You need to dig in and do it. You need to be frustrated. You need to be, debugging your code for, a few hours in the middle of the night and walk away and come back and find the solution and feel good about it. Like that whole process you need to kind of learn about. And once you kind of get comfortable with that, then you start to really appreciate the problem solving process, and maybe even develop a love for programming. And again, the elegance of code and coming up with a solution and making it work. And so all of that comes from just putting in the time.
Okay. And Brandon, I have another question for you. How would you compare the Intro to Python programming course that you're teaching to the actual degree level course?
So like I said, it's some of the same exact material. Literally, I'm thinking about it now. So the Intro to Python is, it's 4 modules, right? That first MOOC is 4 modules. That is almost matches up to the first 4 modules in the course, but we took some of the material out, some of the more challenging advanced material. So it provides a lot of maybe, 50 to 75% of the material from the course. The assignments are different though. That's the one thing. So those assignments and those MOOCs, they're challenging, but they're not as challenging as the assignments in the full course. And you would expect that when you're in the course now, you want something more, to sink your teeth into, to apply those concepts. So you can learn the concepts in the MOOCs. You can do those assignments that are associated with each MOOC. The material is exactly the same. In terms of the topics, I'll say the topics and the lessons are very much the same, but we pulled some of it out. So once you're in the course, you shouldn't be surprised that, oh, I've already watched this. Like some of the material is exactly the same, some of the videos, but then you'll see other topics in Python, same in Java. With this, the specialization didn't cover this, but you'll be kind of more prepared for it, because especially if you go through these all 4 MOOCs, you'll be a lot more prepared for the course. You'll actually find the course a lot easier if you have had no, experience before.
And taking either the computational thinking MOOC or the Java Python specialization is a great way to determine if this program is a good fit for you, knowing that the actual coursework will be more challenging and a bit more rigorous. But if you find that you really enjoy it and you are like, oh, I would really love to delve more into this might be the perfect program for you. Okay, other question. That might be, let's see. Will these master's courses fully fill the gap of all the foundational knowledge that you would have gained during a computer science bachelor's degree? And does the depth and rigor match that of a typical CS master's program, normally taken after the CS bachelor's degree program?
Is that a question for me?
Sure. Well, I can answer because this is something I talk about a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
we mentioned before, it is you get the same knowledge conferred. I think one of the things that's very different, and Brandon and Olivia, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the program, the first 6 core courses give you all of that foundational knowledge that is necessary to complete a master's program. People that are in a traditional master's of program in computer science might have the ability to take more electives, whereas we focus more on the core courses that you would need to know to be able to get to that level. So
Yeah, I would just add that I think sometimes students in the MCIT online program or MCIT find themselves, once they complete those 6 core courses, I think what I've heard them say is occasionally, oh, that's a topic we didn't cover. Oh, I can teach that to myself in, a short amount of time because I have such a thorough understanding of the foundations of computer science. And so, I mean, that makes sense to me, right? If you go on the track where you do sort of a undergrad in CS and then a graduate degree in CS, that's what, 4 plus 2 years of time. So this experience is much more condensed and concentrated. And so there's not time in the day to cover perhaps like, on a syllabus, 1-to-1 exact comparison of what you would get. But the education is extremely thorough. So that it's, I guess, a trade-off. It's a shorter amount of time. There's maybe, again, like a few topics that you may need in your career at some point after that. But what you have is a superpower because you can now teach yourself anything you need to know. And just in the world of technology, everything is, of course, changing. So what I always say is, someone can go to a boot camp and learn a programming language, but that language might then go out of favor. Whereas, like Brandon was saying, with this degree program, you understand by the end so thoroughly what's going on. You can, dare I say, invent your own language? I'm not sure, but I wouldn't be surprised.
yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Definitely those first 6 courses provide you with so much, so much background information in this kind of computer science, realm that it does allow you to pick up other programming languages or other things that are related quicker. So I found as I was going through the courses that I was thinking differently. I was able to pick things up faster because I knew how to learn how to program now. I knew where to look for answers in the documentation or, to be, very detailed about it. I knew exactly where to, what I was looking for when I was learning a new programming language. I knew what to look for. Like, how do I do this that I did in this other language? I knew exactly where. So I was able to transition to other programming languages, other technologies easier because of that base knowledge. Like you said, it's a lot of the same concepts that you bring from specifically for programming from one language to another. And so you're able to, like, you start to think differently. I think more logically, if you don't already. So you become this kind of problem solver, and included in that is where to look for answers if you want to learn something that's not covered in those 6 courses or in the 10 courses, whatever. You're able to. It puts you on this path of just like really being able to, discover for yourself and do the right research.
Thank you, Brandon. I have 2 questions I'm going to kind of combine together from 2 different people. The first part is, how has the program changed over the last couple of years? And I'll reiterate that MCIT Online, this is our 2nd year for our program, even though the on-campus program has been available for 19 years. And someone is interested in electives that would relate to health tech or finance. And how do we develop electives? I guess that's the best way to put that. And I'll mention that there is a section on our website about the courses and the electives that we have offered at this time. And new electives are being developed on a regular basis each semester. So a lot of that has to do with being able to translate the electives that we have on campus into a very sound, comprehensive online lecture program. Like, Brandon, how long did it take you to develop this course? Like, how long did it take for?
Yeah, the way I worked, with the pandemic and all this other stuff, it took up 6 months.
Yeah.
to develop the
So
course. Yeah.
it's very intentional about building
Yeah.
out courses. We don't just say, oh, this is here on campus and we're just going to, throw up some videos and lectures. So there's time that goes into testing the courses and putting the syllabus together and making sure that the lectures are comprehensive and debugging the code within the coursework. So we have new electives that are being offered on a regular basis. So just keep checking the website to see things that might be relevant to your area of interest. So I'll say that.
I'll say one other thing that specifically has changed for this course, the Intro to Software Development, is that it used to be just Java. So it used to just be one semester of Java in this course. We switched that to be half Python, half Java. So you're getting, two popular programming languages. Obviously it has to be accelerated because we bring you through an intro to both languages in the same amount of time. So it's more accelerated, but you get two programming languages instead of one.
Mm-hmm.
So that's changed recently. That's since I started teaching it. So that would have been in the fall.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And just a reminder for those of you who are joining us, if you have questions, please put your questions in the Q&A section as opposed to the chat section. That'll be on the bottom toolbar of your Zoom screen right there. We have another question. I would like to learn what kind of support is available for students. And as the queen of student affairs, I will pass this to Olivia, and I am very impressed with the support available for students, but Olivia can give you more information about that.
Thank you. Yeah, so there's a couple different things I could talk about. One of the most important things in an online program is for students to feel connected to each other and to the program at large and to the university. So we have different measures in place for that. One is a Slack workspace that is just for the students. Like we have over 1,000 students in our program right now. And so it's a very robust community where the students themselves create different channels based on geography, based on topic of interest. Our pets channel is blowing up right now and it's really fun. And then there's also channels designated for each of the individual courses that are taking place that semester so that students can connect with each other on, whether it's commiserating over an assignment or finding a partner on a group project and stuff like that. So that's something that we're really excited about. The students have also taken the initiative to form an online club. So we have MOSA, which stands for MCIT Online Student Association, and students can participate in that. MOSA organizes hackathons and really interesting webinars and content like that. So we're super proud of our students and they totally enrich our community too. So in addition to that, students can take advantage of a peer mentoring program that we have in place. So people can sign up to be paired up with a peer mentor, which is another student that's farther along in the program. Again, all towards that goal of feeling connected. Then we also have things that are more along the course side. So within the course itself, we have a discussion board that is monitored by an army of TAs and the instructor as well. Course team that is making sure people are getting responses in a timely manner. And in addition to that, there are live sessions every week per course that students can attend on an optional basis. But that includes live recitations, live office hours with TAs and instructors. So, finally, I'll say we have student affairs coordinators and advisors who are always available for, for just talking, for if, a student wants to know where to start with a problem that they're having. We have weekly office hours, and Penn has a rich source of resources available to the point that it can almost be overwhelming to know even where to start. So we're just a very much open door policy in terms of a one-stop shop. If you have any questions, you come to my team and I will point you in the right direction.
One of the wonderful things that happens when you first, if you're accepted and you enroll in the program, is you have a period of onboarding where you get an introduction to all of the resources that are available for you within the MCIT Online program, but also throughout the whole entire university. So there's always a way for you to reach out to get questions answered. And I think the ability for us to be very responsive to people's questions and needs is something that's pretty distinctive as well. So even on like the back end right now, we have 2 people in this webinar who you don't see, who are members of the student affairs team, helping answer your questions on the back end. So we work well as a team and get to know a lot of you very well. Other questions, there's one that popped up where it asked, if you take the computational thinking MOOC, should you put that on your application as well? So I'll say, if you take the Java Python specialization and complete part of that course, or the whole entire thing, or the computational thinking MOOC, make sure to add that and talk about that in your application, whether it's in your personal statement or adding it to your resume. If you're in the midst of Brandon's course and you're only completed the first module of it, mention that it's in progress and this is something that you're working on. But make sure to make note of that in your application. And even if you've taken MOOCs from other organizations, it's definitely worth noting, especially if they were online. So it gives us an idea that you've had some experience with online programs. Okay, let's see. Any other questions? I'll take one. You're welcome, John. Let's see. For people that have questions about whether or not they're overqualified, that's often the question that comes about. And so you would be overqualified for the program if you were able to pass a waiver exam for 2 or more of our core courses. So sometimes people will say, I went to this boot camp where I took these 3 MOOCs, or this is my job title, but I don't have a formal CS background. If you look at our course descriptions and really kind of look at what's offered, if you feel like you would be able to waive out of those 2 courses through a waiver exam, you might be overqualified. But then again, if you feel like you might have had a background and taken a few computer science classes, but it was a very, very long time ago and things have changed a lot since then, we want you to address that in your personal statement and let us know why you feel like you wouldn't be overqualified for the program and how MCIT Online would supplement and fill some gaps that you might think that you have in those areas. So keep that in mind. I think our website is a great resource in terms of answering questions. So frequently asked questions, we go through them and review them based on questions that we hear from people in the webinars and through emails all of the time. So they'll have more specific information and links about our course lists, about overqualification. What are some of the things that we look for in quantitative skills for students? Should I take the GRE? What are some alternate courses that we could take, their MOOCs, whether it's Brandon's or a math course that you could take. So there's lots of supplemental information that's offered online for students if you have additional questions. I could take another question. Let's see.
I found one, Rafia. I'll bounce this one to you. It says, many of us are in a profession for a few years, like 10 plus. So do recommendations have to come from professors?
Absolutely not. That's something that's covered on our FAQ as well. So we take recommendations from supervisors, clients, people that you've worked with. Even if you're a person that's been out of the workforce for quite some time and you're far away from being in an undergrad or graduate program, people that you've worked with in the community that you've volunteered with. So you're able to get recommendations from a wide variety of people. We just want the recommendations to be a really good reflection of who you are and what you would bring to the program. Give us an idea of your passion for computer science. And in that note, I think it's very important for applicants to have a discussion with the people writing the recommendation so they have a really good idea of what our program is, how it's different than some other programs that might be out there, so they can write about you in the context of MCIT Online. So yeah.
Yeah, I will just add that Rafia is 100% right. And as you're thinking about asking people to write the letters, it's always ideal if the person has had an opportunity to evaluate your work in some way. So even if it's not an instructor, like she said, if it's a supervisor, that's really helpful. Even if I would say maybe like a client situation where they could say, I needed to evaluate this person's work as the client. So in that sense, not so much a colleague at work. That's less desirable. But maybe like a leader of a local organization that you have worked with as a subcommittee member or something like that. That's kind of the distinction that we're looking for, if possible, in the letters.
I will take another one. And this is something that we discussed very briefly as well. How many hours can I expect to devote to each course unit per week? Once again, Olivia mentioned that anywhere from like 15 to 18. If you have a group project, it might be more. So it really depends on the number of classes that you're taking, your learning style, and your pacing, your ability to manage time. Keep in mind, in the personal statement, we have an updated word limit. So now you're able to write up to 1,500 words in your personal statement. And there's an additional question that talks about your time management skills, like how do you intend on fitting this amount of time into your daily life and schedule working with this program. So that'll help you kind of think through how this program would fit in your life, and gives us a good idea of whether or not you're ready to kind of restructure your life to make sure that you're successful in the program.
Yeah, and I would put an asterisk by that. I'm sure Brandon can speak to this better than I can, but when we say 15 hours on average, like think about what on average means, because for some courses, again, and it varies based on the course and a person's background, but if you think about one course could have assignment due dates every week, for example, so kind of on a weekly cadence with shorter assignments, then you might have another course where the assignments are due every 2 weeks. And so, for that first week, it's, I don't know, 10 hours, let's say. And then the second week is when you're having your midnight struggle with the code, and you get up to 25 hours in a week. That is very normal. So even though we say 15, expect there to be fluctuations as well, especially if you're like studying for an exam or whatnot. Again, all of this we can talk about with you as advisors. But again, I would say that people tend to underestimate how much time it will take. So expect it to be a lot of time, especially in your first semester, like I said. And then, if it ends up being less than that, you can be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I'll definitely say it obviously ebbs and flows, specifically in the first intro to, software development course. It's going to start easier. And then the next week, you're going to spend more time on the assignments. I have students that say, oh, I spent more time this week than last week. And I said, okay. I think that makes sense. That seems like it's in line with the topics becoming, more advanced and the assignments becoming harder. It's going to take more and more time. Specifically in this course, then we jump over to another programming language. So potentially there's another small kind of hurdle for students, learning curve. Then it gets a little bit easier. You kind of get the hang of it, and then you just have to spend more time in the assignments. But conceptually, it's going to be up and down depending on what we're covering throughout the semester.
Great. And we have one last question before we end today. Someone is wondering about the real life application of the material that they learn in class, and are there practical applications for what happens in the coursework? Do you feel like that's something that people can take that knowledge and use it in their day-to-day life? I know that's something we addressed before, but do you have an example you can share with us, Brandon, really quickly?
Oh yeah, sure. So at the time when I was going through the program, like I said, I was actually a programmer, but I was programming in a different programming language. But and this is it was a huge thing for me. So I was working on this web conferencing platform. I had kind of cobbled it together with my sort of self-taught limited knowledge. As I went through the program, I made huge changes to this application based on what I was learning, without a doubt. More on the design side, like how was I putting code together, not so much in the syntax, but how would I structure this program or this platform to be more efficient and to be, more of I wanted it to be like a real kind of packaged kind of platform piece of software that pharmaceutical companies could use to, for web conferencing. At the time, web conferencing was very extremely hot. And, we had to customize one. I had built it again. It was sort of cobbled together, but I restructured the whole thing based on everything I was learning specifically through the Java work I was doing. I was like, oh, wow. Okay. So these classes or objects kind of go together in this way. I'm going to rework what I'm doing at work. So one thing would definitely fed into the other. And then after I graduated, I did move on to another role. One of the first roles I received was a consulting job at the School of Design. That was my first Java position. So I've been working with Java through the MCIT program. I had never had an official job as a Java programmer. That was my first Java programming role. From there, I went to another role that was programming in C#, which is just like Java. So that was helpful as well. I was able to make that transition really easy because of the program, and then obviously because of the work I was doing as a result of the program.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, this is an appropriate time to end. I'd like to thank all of you for joining us. And once again, I'll point out that you should check out our frequently asked question database. Feel free. It's getting late. It's snowing. To email us at online-learning@cs.upenn.edu. We get back to you right away. And by we, I mean I answer all of those emails. Sometimes people are like, what's your email? And I'm like, that's where I am all the time. So if you fill out an email, if you have questions, sign up for our mailing list on Coursera. Once again, we have the 2 MOOCs available through Coursera that are amazing ways to kind of see if this program might be a good fit for you, to get a taste for what the lecture style might be like, and to see if this is the right type of program for you. So Introduction to Programming with Python and Java Specialization, and our Computational Thinking for Problem Solving course. Once again, thank you to Brandon and Olivia for joining us today. And for those of you that joined us a little bit later, this will be posted on our YouTube channel, the Penn Engineering Online YouTube channel, sometime next week. Until then, stay safe, stay warm, depending upon where you are. And thank you for spending time with us. We're going to stay here a little bit to answer more questions in the Q&A and finish up some of those. But feel free to reach out if you have any additional questions. Thank you, and have a great afternoon or day, depending upon where you are.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.